Hello, welcome to Revenant Reads. I'm Vin, and today for Book Trek 2021, we're looking at Invasion, First Strike by Diane Carey. So for Book Trek 2021, myself and some great co-hosts are going on a 5-month mission, where each month we are looking at a different iteration of Star Trek, beginning with the original series and following production order. Uh, so August is original series, next month is Next Gen, and then we go DS9, Voyager, and then end with Enterprise in December. So I've read a couple original series novels so far this month. This is the third one, and I chose this especially because it follows along with the same pattern that we are going to be doing as far as reading these Star Trek novels. It's a 4-part series. The first part takes place in the original series. There you can see Kirk and Spock. The next part takes place in TNG, Next Generation. The part after that, the part after that, Deep Space Nine, and then Voyager. So as these months go by for Book Trek 2021, I can go through the series. And this series, the first one, is written by Diane Carey, and also she's one of the people that came up with the concept for this as well. The other books are written by other authors. And I had read one other Trek book by Diane Carey. It was Final Frontier, which I enjoyed overall. I'm pretty sure that one of my co-hosts, Steve Donahue, considers Diane Carey one of his favorites, if not his favorite, Trek author. So I was curious to see what I would especially think of this, being the second book that I'm reading by her. And before we get to that, let's just kind of get with the concept here. We have an alien species kind of come through a spatial rift into what we would call the Alpha Quadrant. And first they're encountered by Klingons, and then by Kirk on behalf of the Federation. And we find that these alien beings, all right, believe at least that this sector of space belonged to them thousands of years ago, and they have come back to reconquer. Solid premise for a Trek series. And for the most part, I think Diane Carey does a pretty good job of establishing the concept here. However, I have to admit that the first 100 pages or so, I was really not liking the book. I wasn't liking the writing, I have to say. The very opening is interesting. Carey does put interesting concepts, especially like physics, into her books. One of them, which is when this ship is coming through the spatial rift, it has an effect on the space around it, and a Klingon fleet happens to be there at the time inside a solar system that they want to conquer. And the effect of this rift causes everything around there to go to zero mass. So effectively, when something goes to zero mass, it then proceeds to go to light speed. So you have these Klingons looking at this sun in the solar system and these planets all of a sudden expanding, and the particles going off into light speed, and they are fighting to try and keep their shields up so that they can maintain at least a little bit of mass inside their ships, so that they don't also go flying apart at light speed. And it's an interesting concept, interesting way to open up the book. Some of the Klingon dialogue is kind of weird. There's a lot of focus on Klingons being afraid, which is not something that we think of when it comes to Klingons. But I didn't have a problem with that opening. The action then proceeds to Capella 4. I think it's 4. And this is a planet that we saw in season 2 of the original series. So this happens right, I guess, during the second year of the original 5-year mission. And we saw the planet on the episode Friday's Child, which is frankly not a very good original series episode. We have the Federation trying to get, I think, almost like mining rights or something like that, if I remember correctly. It's been a while since I've seen it. From a planet that is ruled by almost like a Bronze Age tribe. So it doesn't really make sense that we're trying to negotiate with this planet in the first place. But then you find that there's a Klingon there who's making a bunch of trouble and working against the Federation, and they don't try to make this Klingon look alien at all. Not even like bronze makeup or anything like that. It's just a dude with mutton chops. And they never have, I don't think they ever referred to him by name. He's just called the Klingon the entire time. And the Capellan costumes aren't very good. I think the only memorable thing really about this this episode is DeForest Kelley slapping Julie Newmar. Man, there's that. But it's not very good. But we're put in the action that is in the aftermath of that episode, where the Klingons are angry that they basically lost this planet to the Federation. So they are coming and attacking, and Kirk is on ground level in this like assault against Klingon forces. And the Capellans are there with like their bows and arrows, and they have like this kind of like a chakra thing that they throw. I don't remember what it's called. It has a certain name to it. And that was, you know, I don't mind action in a book, but I like it to kind of mean something. And when I'm just thrown into a long, drawn-out action sequence I don't really understand what the stakes are exactly. You know, it gets a little bit tedious. But even more than that, some of the choices that Carey makes, it feels like it should have gone through one more editorial draft. Words are kind of used in very close proximity. You know, again, at one point I think the word again is actually used twice inside a sentence. You know, she has very odd choices of some descriptions. Like at one point, like I said that the Capellan costumes aren't very good in the series, but she has Kirk actually talk about, you know, or think about them. And she says at one point, and this was published in the mid-90s, and she says that Kirk, to him, they looked like ninjas in goon boots wearing windbreaker capes. And then he goes on to say that he didn't care if they were wearing fishnet stockings, as long as, you know, they were supporting her, they were fighting. It's just a weird thing for Kirk, who's, you know, several hundred years into our future, to be saying. It sounds very much like somebody in the 90s thinking about Capellans and not somebody in the future. I didn't care for that description at all. Like, it was things like that that kept taking me out of the action. And at one point she refers to the up there Klingons. These are like Klingons that are on a ridge, but she refers to them as the up there Klingons. So things do start getting better with the writing. Excuse me, a little cough. Once we kind of get to around the 100-page mark, but there's still a couple other weird choices. When, you know, basically this battle is stopped because there is a Klingon general who wants Kirk's help to face this new alien menace, this threat. That this general is convinced these are like ancient demons that have returned and they have to be destroyed. So Kirk goes to this ship and everything like that, and when he's trying to get an away team going, he somehow doesn't know that Uhura is the ship's linguist. They've been serving together for like 2 years now, and he's the captain of the ship, and he doesn't know that she's the ship's linguist, apparently, in this book. And then when they go over to the ship, he's got Uhura McCoy with him, and Uhura is using the tricorder to look for signs of life because it's very foggy in the ship. And then McCoy kind of intuits that there's people around. It kind of was weird that McCoy wouldn't be the one using a tricorder to medically scan and try and find life. And Uhura would maybe be the one that, you know, had a little more of a sixth sense when it comes to realizing they're being watched. So at that point in the story, I'm frustrated. But I will say after that point, okay, once the point, especially when Kirk meets these aliens and starts talking to them, and we get to know more about their culture, the book really, for me at least, does a 180. It becomes very interesting, and it draws on things that I am admittedly already interested in, and we're talking like pre-Christian European myth, from like Celtic gods or Hellenistic religion. There's ideas from that are incorporated into this new alien culture. And, you know, I'm a fan of horror films like The Wicker Man, that had Christopher Lee in it. everything like that. And there's scenes that are evocative of that in this. So that stuff I really liked. I ended up enjoying really the whole second half of the novel. I like that a lot better. There is, Kirk does kind of brush off the death of somebody on a ship a little bit too quickly. He still doesn't forget about it, but he seems awfully almost forgiving of it. The way that he's written later on, which irked me a little bit, but whatever. That at least is kind of a smaller problem that I had with it. So yeah, the first part of this book, I didn't care for. But then I really ended up liking the second half. So it's kind of, I guess, an even wash. And it does make me curious to see how this concept is going to continue with the other books. So, yeah, anyway, this is the first part. We've got Invasion, First Strike, taking place in the, I guess, I'm assuming the second year of the original 5-year mission. And next month, I will read the second part of this series, which takes place with the Next Generation. So anyway, those are my thoughts for Diane Carey's Invasion, First Strike. Thank you, BookTube.